We're reading some more entitled people today, and I hope you're ready for this. Even though we haven't been on this subreddit for like almost a week, I think, it feels like that isn't true. But then I realized that's because we read entitled people every single day. So yeah, the only difference is these entitled people are from the entitled people subreddit. But hey, I don't know about you guys, but I don't get tired of reading about entitled people. So with that being said, let's get started. Enjoy, guys. Sold me eggs, but then told me that I have to give them back if she needed them. Yeah, that's not how selling something works. This situation is so dumb and I'm so confused. I feel like I'm the crazy one. I have a lady that I buy eggs from instead of buying eggs from the store. Yesterday I went to pick up a couple of dozen, like I usually do. She told me that she might run out, and if she does, she'll want the eggs back. Lol, what? Not buy them back, but she expects me to just give them back? I was confused because won't her chicken still be laying eggs every day? I admit I don't know much about chickens. I clarified that she was meaning that she would ask me for the eggs back that I just bought. She says yes. I told her to just keep a dozen if she felt like she was going to run out. She needed the couple of bucks that she was getting from me for the eggs, so not selling them to me wasn't an option. I said, okay, but you'll be refunding me the money I spent if I have to give them back. And she got mad. She expected me to pay for these eggs and then just give them back to her for free when she runs out. Am I wrong? Am I the crazy one here? After this interaction, I'm going back to the store because this doesn't seem right. It's hilarious and irritating. Edit, she wasn't meaning to give her the egg cartons back. I used my own cartons. If she needed the cartons I had, I would have given them to her, and I have saved those for her in the past. She was definitely meaning she wanted me to give her the eggs back and that she wouldn't be giving me my money back. Yeah, that's so wild. Like, how are they justifying that in their head? And yeah, 100% go to the supermarket so you don't have to deal with stuff like this, or find a new egg person that actually lets you keep the eggs. Like, imagine if a supermarket was like that. Like, yeah, you did just buy this item, but if we run out of stock, you need to bring it back. No, that's not how buying something works. Like this comment says, her egg business is not all it's cracked up to be. That's a beautiful comment. Straight up, you should be like, hey, have you lost your mind? I'm buying these eggs off you, which means they're mine. You don't get them back, and you especially don't get them back if you're not going to buy them back. Like, can you not see the issue with this? The next one is called Coworker Demands I Spend Lunch Giving Her a Free Manicure. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I, 34 female, work in a government office in my province. It's a rewarding job, but it doesn't pay very well, and I absolutely love having my nails done. My nails have been pretty crap my entire life, flaky and weak, no matter what oil or supplement or whatever I try, and I did used to have a bad habit of chewing them, so I bought myself a $50 gel kit from Amazon, and I started doing them myself about a year ago. I have a nice little setup at this point, and I will do my friends' nails from time to time. I've also completely stopped chewing them. I brought my kit to work the other day because I was going to go to a friend's house after to do her nails as a favor before a party. My friend offered to buy a pizza and we were just planning to watch a movie after. I made the mistake of discussing this plan with a coworker when she noticed the kit sitting on top of my locker. They were small lockers and I didn't want to put it on the floor where I put my dirty walk to work shoes. Oh my god, this woman, 50-ish, spent the 4 hours leading up to lunch badgering me about how I should give her a manicure on our lunch break. I had my favorite teal shade on and she talked about how much she loved it and how she never gets her nails done because her husband thinks it's a waste of money, and how I can get some practice and it would be so nice of me. I said no at first gently more than once, and then I thought pretty firmly that I'll be eating lunch on my break before I gave up, and I just responded to everything she said with a non-committal grunt. When I got up to go, she tried to act like I'd agreed to it and that she'd grab her stuff and meet me in the lunchroom. I had to look her in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to eat during my 30-minute unpaid lunch break, not give you a free manicure. Please drop this, you're making me uncomfortable. She's refused to speak to me or look directly at me since. She's mostly remote and kind of annoying, so that's not a problem. She also crap talks me behind my back. Some of my co-workers have told me about it, and she's a huge gossip with a massive chip on her shoulder about everything. So I can only assume that most people in the office have heard her harrowing tale. Luckily, everybody who's talked to me about it agrees that she's being a complete clown. But seriously, who the hell asks a co-worker that you're barely even friendly with for a free manicure, let alone insisting upon it for hours? Yeah, a very immature one. There are so many people like this that have either never been told no, or they've used this sort of technique where they badger people over and over again even if they say no, and they feel like they can keep doing it. Like, oh, what do you mean I can't always get what I want? And it doesn't matter if I keep pestering you about it for hours? Yeah, that's so frustrating, and good on you for not doing it. You're in your 50s, you can't be acting like this. Co-workers believe I shouldn't get a large tip because they cared about the cat too. This has been a hectic past week and it started awful. I work at a casino casino hotel as a bellman, and last Tuesday, I was done helping a guest when I came privy to information that a cat was run over in our hotel parking lot. Demanding answers over and over, I eventually found the information from a guest I helped the previous day. Let's call him Harold. Harold tried to stop me as he was smoking, and I apologized, but I was looking for something until he mentioned a cat, which I said that's what I'm looking for. He pointed it out, to which I ran back inside, and after a few minutes I took a towel and an empty box from our housekeeper and finally went out into the cold, lightly freezing rain. There was already a gathering of guests, some of which they'd been out there for an hour and a half, and our security had blown them off, or that's how they felt. I didn't see the exact situation to know for sure, but our first shift security is also super lazy. I got the towel on the cat and I managed to get him in the box, but it all went downhill from there as he writhed and eventually flipped him onto his back. I brought the cat back up to the doors but never went inside, just stayed kneeling on the ground and talking to the cat as I knew animal control was on the way, and security was just telling me to leave the cat there and my bosses wanted me back inside. I refused, and I later learnt that that was not exactly the case. I was making security look bad to our guests. The cat sadly died 10 minutes later, but at least he didn't die alone. This did ruin my whole day to have them die right in front of me, but this was not part of my job and I knew I had no right to cry or stop my job after the death. Our on-property police came and grabbed the cat and took them off property for animal control. I had to break the news to the guests who had seen the entire incident, and none of them were happy, save Harold's wife, who gave me a hug and wished me well. But the main bread and butter of this story is when Harold left, and it was on Friday, my day off. According to an email sent to the supervisors by one of them, Harold came up to the desk and loudly announced that he was giving me, the man who cared for the cat, a sum of a few $100 because I did something for the animal. Because of Harold's volume, my other fellow bell staff heard and apparently went to the supervisor saying I shouldn't get that whole tip because they were upset over the cat too. Two of the three complaining didn't even work the day it happened, and apparently it was a slow tip day. It was quite a find in my tip box, and I was pulled aside when I wanted to open it, and I found out the above details of the bell staff wanting a piece of my biggest gift so far. It's ironic too, I was for tip pooling over the keep your own tips. I wish I could say I was happy for such a large sum, but I'd really like to not feel so awful that the cat died. When I see Harold and his wife, it was their first visit to our place, I'll be sure to thank them. Oh wow, yeah, like the top comment says, thank you for helping the poor cat so it didn't die alone. Keep that tip for yourself, you earned it. Yeah, 100%. And the co-workers are so greedy, like, oh, some of that money should be mine, even though I didn't do anything and I wasn't even there. Yeah, that's so frustrating. Frustrating and also sad. Yeah, good on you, OP. The next one is called Entitled Sister-in-Law Stole Our Baby Name, and now she regrets it. Hey yo, long time lurker and all that. This is the throwaway account. To cut to the chase, my wife and I spent 4 years trying to get pregnant before the wrong side of 35. We're currently 33 respectively, and are blessed with a wonderful infant son. My wife has a younger half-sister that has been pretty low contact for some time. The woman is entitled and toxic and is also her mother's golden child. We've refused to let her or my mother-in-law in the house since they both blatantly tried to make off with my wife's jewelry box a couple of years ago. The box contained a lot of valuable jewelry inherited from my wife's grandmother. Said jewelry is now in a safe deposit box as per my suggestion. My wife and I had nearly given up trying to conceive when it suddenly happened, and we were ecstatic. After we found out we were having a boy, we started looking into names. I ended up suggesting the name of my Scottish grandfather, and my wife loved it, so that's the name that we settled on. But we made the mistake of posting about it on social media. Well, no surprise to the stereotype in this mess, my sister-in-law was pregnant too, and was months further along than my wife and was also having a boy. She decided to take my grandfather's name for her own son, and not just the first name, but the middle name too. We called her pissed over what she was doing, and she smugly told us there's nothing we can do about it, which she was sort of right. There was nothing we could do about it legally, as it still isn't a crime to steal planned baby names. We realised that drama was exactly what my sister-in-law wanted, and she thought that by taking the name for herself, we'd not be able to use it. I laughed and I told her that while what she did was dirty and underhanded, we're still going to keep the chosen name, and she could just deal with it whether she decides to go through with copying us or not. Well, my sister-in-law's baby daddy called me and said I was an unreasonable ding-dong for still wanting to use the name after sister-in-law claimed it. I said she bloody claimed nothing, and since we couldn't own the name, then neither could they. Before he ended the call, he threatened me by saying I'd be sorry if we didn't change it, and then he hung up before I could respond. Oh yeah, threatening somebody, that's smart. Months later, sister-in-law has a healthy baby boy and names him my grandfather's name. We did not show up for the birth, both because of the pandemic and also because we simply didn't care to be there. Sister-in-law called us wanting congratulations, but we told her we simply didn't care, and that if she was still insisting we change our baby's name, then she'd be in for some big disappointment because we're not going to. Sister-in-law demanded I put my wife on the phone, but it was already on speakerphone, and my wife spoke up and said said that she agrees with me entirely. We aren't changing the name. Sister-in-law hung up on us, but soon after started sending emails with text walls of names, even suggesting similar ones. I responded back that the name was from my grandfather, and that's why we're not changing it. She shut up and we didn't hear from her again until after our son was born. 2 months later, we were blessed with our son. He came out perfect, and we named him just as we'd intended. Well, no surprise, my sister-in-law called us a few days after the birth to scream in our ears that we copied her son's name. I pointed out that she was the real copycat since she had no familial ties to the name, and we did. And anyone who looks at our family tree can see that. Then my wife spoke and said that after the attempted theft of our grandmother's jewelry, she's no longer considered sister-in-law her sister, and is going to have nothing to do with her nephew either. For months, we were bombarded with messages and emails from my wife's side of the family, half on our side after finding out the whole story. The other half were not, and sister-in-law's baby daddy, true to his word, showed up at my door to make me sorry. I'm not sure what his plan was, but I pretty much towered over him. I'm 6'1" and well built from regular exercise and 3 trips to the gym a week. He, on the other hand, was a very skinny and about 5'6" with a baby face that was badly hidden by a slim beard. I told him my house has cameras and to get off my property and to never come back. He just yelled a few obscenities at me and then drove off in his beat up old car. Sister-in-law and mother-in-law called us from a different number to yell at me for making sister-in-law's baby daddy feel emasculated. Wow, what? I didn't even threaten the man. I just told him to leave and not come back. And if he didn't want to feel emasculated, then he shouldn't have come knocking. Then they tried to bring up the issue of the baby name again and demanded that we change our son's name as he's so young. So there's still plenty of time to do it. We held our ground and we told them that they were bonkers to still think that they were in the right after they copied our choice of name just to try and get one over on us. I said sister-in-law didn't even name her son out of love, but out of spite, just to try and stick it to my wife for no good reason. And then my wife called them both out on the way she was treated growing up, how entitled sister-in-law and mother-in-law have always been, and how she was glad to leave them far behind, and she wants nothing from them, and they won't have anything from us. That left sister-in-law sobbing, and mother-in-law called me a royal bastard before hanging up on the phone. There were no contact again for a little while until sister-in-law called us again sometime later to bitterly tell us that we'd won. She and her baby daddy got in a huge fight and he left. He was apparently very sore that sister-in-law didn't even let him give their son a middle name from his family, and he said that he was sick of the BS and wanted his son to be named after him and not some guy that he wasn't even related to. Sister-in-law finally caved and they got the boy's birth certificate reissued with a completely new name, which cost sister-in-law around $500 or so, she claims. Sister-in-law then demanded that we at least compensate her for the name change, plus another $100 for the emotional damage, as now she's going to have to get used to calling her son by a different name. We laughed and said that this would never have happened if she hadn't have stolen our baby name to begin with, and we didn't owe her anything. Since then, we've been no contact with sister-in-law and mother-in-law, but my father-in-law, who's a very nice man and divorced from mother-in-law for obvious reasons, will come by often and loves his grandson. From what he and other relatives have told us about the situation between sister-in-law and her baby daddy, it's pretty tumultuous, but we don't care. Not our monkeys, not our circus. Okay, that was a very satisfying story. I'm so happy that they didn't budge on this, and the baby daddy being upset, rightfully so as well, that the sister-in-law was using somebody else's name to get back at their sister. Yeah, that's so unbelievable. Like, didn't they say that they also took their middle name as well? Like, imagine naming your child after your grandfather and their middle name, and then your sister-in-law comes along and wants to use that name and the middle name. Like, what's wrong with people? How could you even do that? And they obviously did it without even talking to the baby daddy in this, because yeah, of course they don't want that. Yeah, I'd be staying no contact with somebody like this. The next one is called Entitled Neighbor is Angry That I'm Using My Parking Space. My 30 female, husband 27 male and I live in a closed street of small houses. Each house has a parking spot, plus most people owning more than one car parking parallel out front of the house. We didn't own a car because we both work from home and we hate driving, plus public transport here is not so bad. We have a neighbor who owns 3 cars, so obviously he has no space to park them all at his house. He asked our next door neighbor, we can call him EN, if he could park outside her house. She also doesn't drive, and she said yes, but entitled neighbor, in order to not block his other car, parks all the way in front of my driveway. To be honest, I wouldn't have even minded if he had asked, but the fact that he just does it annoys me. Also, my family comes to visit often, and if they do come by car, he's usually blocking them and we have to ask him to move. And also every time he gets mad as if we asked him for a favor. Anyway, I got a nice promotion that involved in-person work 3 times a week, so we decided it was time to get a car. We bought a nice practical one and we got it in our parking space. Well, the next morning the guy was blocking my exit. I rang his doorbell like crazy. It was 6 a.m. and when he finally came out, I asked him to move it and to not park it there anymore. He got defensive and said that my neighbor let him park in front of her house. So what I answered was, yeah, but this is my house, and if you block my entrance again, I'm gonna remove your car. We realized that he left the car open, so we let the handbrake loose and we pushed the car into the middle of the street in front of his driveway. Oh, right, okay, so they moved it. I thought they meant they let the handbrake go and they just let the car go. I put a note on his windshield saying next time it's a tow truck. I put tape over his doorbell so it continues ringing, and I left as quickly as I could. He hasn't said anything, but he hasn't parked there anymore. I love how they said, oh, it's okay because the neighbor said I could park in front of their house. Like, you're not in front of their house. They're blocking OP's driveway, and of course they know they are. It's not like they'd be doing it without realizing. And then the audacity to do it again. Like, come on, dude. You're lucky they didn't tow your car. The next one is called Old Lady Told Me to Shut Up. A few years back, I'm swimming with my 3-year-old son, and we had the pool to ourselves apart from one other lady. The pool is L-shaped, split into the main bit with some lanes, and a square bit that was notionally the kids' pool, but only because it's shallower. My son was learning to swim without armbands, and so we were in the wide lane, while Mrs. Entitled was swimming in the narrow lane, labelled adults only. After one length of my son swimming a whole length with me, encouraging him, she says, you can't swim here, this is adults only. But yes, lady, you're in the adults only bit, except I can't say that in front of my very eloquent 3-year-old. It's just your lane that's adults only. Look, there's the sign. My son is learning to swim lengths. She starts ranting at me about how she pays her membership fees. So do I, funnily enough, and I'm wrong. Check the sign, Karen. Basically having a tantrum. Lady, I'm a mum to a 3-year-old. I can handle this behavior, and I'm gonna speak to you exactly as I would to my child, probably in the same tone of voice because I'm in mummy mode and my son's listening. I can see you're upset about this, but I'm very sorry. We are allowed to swim here. She rants a bit more. I very calmly, gently parent her until she eventually sputters and tells me to just shut up and flounces off. Cue my child who says loudly, Mummy, she just told you to shut up. That's so rude. I made no effort to speak quietly and I said, yeah, it really was. She was cross that she couldn't get her own way, but you're right, it is very rude to say that to someone. We then proceeded to swim a good few more lengths and I very vocally and cheerfully encouraged him the whole time. I went to the front desk after to double check that I was. Apparently she'd also been to complain and been told to suck it up. I love how satisfying these are. They remind me of the pro-revenge ones. Like, it's one thing to read about entitled people, but it's so much better to read about entitled people when they have a good ending or they get some sort of karma. Kids are so funny for that too. They'll say stuff that you are like too nervous to say because they don't know any better. Mum, that person is being awfully rude to you. That's so funny. The next one is called I'm Old, You Should Have Chairs For Me. I work at a bookstore that also has a coffee shop in it. Between the cafe and our customer service desk, we used to have 2 large comfy chairs and a table. They were meant for customers to look through books and relax while shopping and enjoy their food and coffee, etc. Notice how I said used to? We had to get rid of the chairs and table, specifically because of one certain customer. This man comes in multiple times a week, sometimes with his wife. He would just sit in the chair for hours, sometimes until we closed. He never bought anything. He didn't even grab a book or a magazine to peruse. He would take off his shoes and use the table as a footrest. He'd watch YouTube videos on the loudest volume on his phone. He'd fall asleep in the chairs with his shoes off and his YouTube going and just act like he owned the place. We had to ask him several times to put his shoes on because the man was literally feet from where we served our food. That's not okay. And his wife, I couldn't stand her either. She never bought anything. She would come over to the counter in the cafe where I'm dealing with a line of 10 people and would be asking for a cup of hot water, and heaven forbid you make her wait for it. So we had to get rid of the chairs because it was becoming a big problem, and he was so furious when he came back and saw that we'd taken them away. I watched him walk around the store trying to find the chairs, and when he only found the smaller chairs and benches that we have, he confronted my manager about it. There are old people like me who need a place to sit. Dude, you just a loiter. You and your wife aren't even paying customers. Edit, no, they're not homeless, and I don't know why they weren't banned. My best guess is probably because what they were doing isn't causing physical harm or distress to other customers. Yeah, right, so they weren't necessarily doing anything wrong. They were just being super rude and entitled. Like, oh, you can't come in and sit there all day anymore and not buy anything. Also, they're watching YouTube super loud without the headphones. That is so bloody annoying. And yeah, what a shame that they don't have to deal with that anymore. And yeah, on that note, I feel like that's enough entitled people for today. It's definitely wholesome memes time. Every time you feel alone, just remember there are 25 billion antibodies flowing through your veins who would die die in order to protect you. Nobody has ever worried that much about me. I never thought about that. And you know what? That's beautiful. I'll make sure to remember that. I found out that my husband fills the dog's water dish not from the tap, but from the fridge's water purifier. She'd do the same for me, he said. Oh, that's so beautiful. Like, whoa. You think they wouldn't also do the best for me? Of course they would. How to accept compliments. Return their compliment with another compliment. Wow, I love your shirt. Thank you. I'm also very good at sports. Nailed it. Like, not only is my shirt beautiful, but I'm also a pretty decent singer. And I'm smart. That's so cute. I'm not saying that I'm smart or a singer, by the way. I definitely can't sing. And I'm pretty sure you guys know the answer to the other one. And on that note, I'm leaving today's episode there. Thank you all for watching once again. I hope you had a wonderful time, guys. And if you did and you want to see more episodes like this, I'm pretty sure you know what to do. And the comment of the day today goes to Polyakov? No, I'm sorry. I'm so bad with pronouncing stuff, especially usernames. Thank you for ending the videos with something wholesome. We all need a break from all the negativity. Greetings from Russia. Yeah, 1000%. I couldn't agree more. There's negative stuff everywhere, isn't there? You have to make like a conscious effort to avoid it. And yeah, if you guys are watching my videos, I don't want to make your day worse. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely a necessity. And yeah, thank you for watching the episodes. I'm so glad you enjoy them. Jin is sleeping behind me right now, guys, and I need to show you a photo of the way he's sleeping. Look at this little guy. Isn't he so cute? He always sleeps like this with his arms all stretched out like Superman. And yeah, he's beautiful and I needed to show you guys. Okay, thank you for all the support. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!